Now, every day I pick up the newspaper and it's US, China, US, China. How about the rest of the world? You know, how about, I keep asking, where is the European voice in the midst of all this? And in Asia, where is the Indian voice? And where is, how does India look at this? And what sort of attitude would one take from an Indian standpoint? And how are you going to do this? Are you going to join one side or the other, or start speaking really for your own interests?
Well, it seems to me that, you know, what you described as decoupling or bifurcation on the trade economic side is also happening geopolitically. There's a real risk that we're going to have two separate but overlapping geopolitical orders. Mm-hmm. And of course, both those who run those orders, whether it's China or the US, will say, join us, or if you're not with us, you're against us. But that's not what anybody else wants geopolitically. The consequence of having two geopolitical orders is going to be that the conditions that made this fantastic growth in Asia possible over the last 3 decades, that those conditions are going to be affected. Basically, absent global public goods, things like freedom of navigation, dispute resolution, crisis management when flashpoints do occur. And unfortunately, it goes along with domestic politics in most of these countries, in fact, all the great powers, where new authoritarians have come to power, base their legitimacy on ultranationalism and therefore have much less room to give and take, to do the normal bargaining that you do in diplomacy. So what do you do in this situation? For a power like India, China's our biggest trading partner in goods. If you add services, the US is our biggest trading partner. We can't do without either. I mean, there's no way that we are going to choose between the two willingly, unless it's absolutely essential. We would do whatever we can to try and ameliorate or mitigate the consequences of a divided world, of a bifurcated, decoupled world. And the way forward for me is issue-based coalitions of the willing. If you're dealing with, say, freedom of navigation, that's one set of people you'd get around the table who have the capacity, the navies, to do what they need to do. If you're dealing, say, with cyberspace, which is being weaponized, militarized, you'd have another set of people who have the capabilities to actually, and these would be different coalitions. So you can't expect the world order to start dealing with these issues anymore. Mm-hmm. So you do sort of multilateralism light, as it were, and build these coalitions and deal with the consequences and try and minimize them so that we can keep growing, we can keep developing the way we have been so far. Is it possible? Yes, it's going to be hard work. It's going to be much harder, especially in the kind of economic climate that you're offering, this deflationary situation where it's going to get harder and harder. But I think it has to be done because the alternative is terrible. The alternative is that every little crisis somewhere or the other actually leads to direct great power conflict. And that's something you need to avoid. That's the worst case scenario, actually, from our point of view. I know, national security advisors make their living with worst case scenarios. That's what gives us our jobs. But frankly, that's what we have to avoid.